All right, guys, we're going to be reviewing wins and losses today. And to be honest, I kind of started fucking around today. But today was not a good day. It wouldn't have ended up being a good day, even if I stayed by my rules. It was probably going to be about a 800 negative day for us. So not a good day. I think we literally lost every trade except for maybe one. And the one we won, we had to take a very minuscule gain on because we saw it was just not going to pull the way we really needed it to. So, anyways, we'll hop right into it. Let's start off with we'll start off with this CCL trade. I think this was our one win of the day, and as you can see, we ended up selling it at 1583, bought it at 1580. So just really nothing there to it. You know, we're talking 3 cents on 625 shares. So very, very small trade, very small win. Not much there. In about 25 minutes, a little under a $20 trade. So not what we wanted. I think we came close. We probably could have hopped out a little bit sooner before we let it fall back down to 1583. I was really hoping for a pullback. Didn't see it. But let's pull that up. So we made this trade at 1029. Let's go over this trade and why we decided to make this trade, and let's see if we can find out where things went wrong for us. So 1029. We're on a 5-minute chart here, which is typically what I go by. I was pulling the 1-minute chart up quite a bit. So you'll see why we took this trade here. You'll see why we took it, and we could have, obviously, I was going for 16. Really, when I saw this downturn here, once I saw this pullback, I probably should have went ahead and got out, capitalized on it. We could have gotten like $60 on this trade. I really was hoping for a pullback back up, but I ended up setting my stop because I didn't want it to pull all the way back down below where we had bought it in, and it was obviously kind of going that way. Had we held it, we could have gotten back up to 1595, but again, that's capital tied up for a really long time. And I just wasn't, at this point, you know, my trend was pretty much broken. It could have easily just continued on a downward trend here. So we ended up pulling out at 1583, decided to look for better opportunities. Didn't get them, unfortunately, but, oops. Gosh, can we not do that? Anyways, let's ignore those. Just ignore those. But we'll see why we got into it. So you see we broke our downtrend here. We got in, I think, at a pretty reasonable time. We waited for our confirmation here. We saw the uptrend happening here. We decided that, you know, once we saw a pull up and kind of a reserve back, then we got this confirmation candlestick. We went ahead and hopped in. Got in right at 1580. Not a bad spot to get in necessarily. It just didn't give us our pullback. Like I said, we were really hoping to get up to at least 16 where this previous support was earlier. And I didn't want to go all the way up to the last resistance, but I really was kind of expecting to at least come a little bit closer to our previous support. And like I said, we did end up getting there eventually had we held it a little bit longer. But I wasn't comfortable with it anymore, and so I ended up just getting in and getting out after I saw this downturn. But as far as our trade, I think we had sound reasoning. I think we should have gone a little more conservative there. If we get 10 cents a share on that, if we go with 1590, I'm kind of breaking my rules of being a little more conservative. I should have at least gotten out of half my shares at this 1590, and then maybe tried to ride the other half of the shares. Unfortunately, it didn't go that way for us. So, but you'll see that had we got out at that 10 cents a share, that would have been a $62 trade. It wouldn't have been a bad trade, you know, in a course of 20 minutes. But we're trying to be a little greedy. We try to get up to the 16. What we probably should have been looking at was the previous resistance that was further back. It's a little hard to do on my phone. This is where doing it from my phone is becoming really detrimental because I didn't really see this on my phone. Had I seen this previous resistance here. I would have set it probably at 1595 and maybe even slightly under. I probably would have actually gone with 1590, seeing this previous resistance. But you know, unfortunately, we didn't get it. That was our one small win of the day. I don't think it was a bad trade. I think we hopped in when we needed to. We just didn't get out when we needed to. So we ended up not getting nearly the gain that we really wanted to on there. But you'll see we actually had another opportunity to get in later. The only reason I didn't is because I didn't see a big potential on the upside. You know, obviously we could have got in at 1580 again. I didn't expect it to even come back to this level, which we see it did for a very short time, but it kind of did what I kind of expected. But again, we could have possibly gotten a 10-cent gain. So there was two potential trades there for about $60. But I think by the time we saw this confirmation, you know, we see this hammer, we see this confirmation. By the time we get in, it's really probably going to be, it's highly doubtful we actually get in at 1580. So probably don't get back in there because the risk reward is really just not there at that point. But yeah, that was our one win of the day. So now let's go to the more important thing, is our losers. We're going to learn a lot more from our losers than we will our winners. So on this one, I tried to actually short CCL at about 12.56. We ended up getting stopped out at 15.90 at 2.30. So let's take a look at 12.56, see why we took this. Again, I don't think we got in at a bad, well, I say that. This was a really bad trade where we got in at. So 12.56, we got in towards the bottom here. Really shouldn't have done it. I kind of expected it to pull all the way back down closer to this, especially seeing these previous support levels back here. Unfortunately, we also didn't really, we should have understood this was another support level here close. And so getting in at around this point at 1581, which is where we got in at, you know, during this candlestick here, during this red candlestick, we should not have gotten in when we did there. Again, it was right during this candlestick when we got in, and it was an unfortunate thing. We might have even got in some point on this one, because I think this one was a downward trend when I possibly got into this one. So not really following. We didn't have our break yet. If we were going to get into this, we should have gotten in during our actual break, which would have been about right. Okay, that's not what I said to do at all. So so we'll see if we were going to get in. Where we should have gotten in at. Was after we got our confirmation. So we get our hammer here. After we get our confirmation, then we get in somewhere in this candlestick. And then we have a potential to ride it up and actually get, you know, potentially up to 15 cents on that trade. Now, do I think we would have gone that high? No, absolutely not. I would have set it at 15.90-ish probably. I don't think I would have even gone up to this because of where this ended. I would have gone right around 15.90, possibly 15.92 would have been the highest, seeing where this last resistance was. But again, what we should have done was look at our trend line here. I don't understand why it's doing this to me. I mean, active tool, trend line, drawings, trend. Okay, it's not an actual draw. It's a click on this one. Okay, So what we should have done was set up our trend line, something like that. We see the break here, now we get our confirmation, now we get in during this candlestick here. And like I said, if we were going to get in, that's what we should have done. There was no reason to, there was absolutely no reason to short this stock. That was more of a, this is how I feel like it's going to go versus how it following an actual strategy. So that was a filling trade, and that's why we lost it. We know we cannot be doing filling trades. That's me being impatient, just hoping for a gain, and it's just not a strategy for winning. So it's a horrible trade. We know why it's a horrible trade. It's just something I got to avoid in the future. Okay, so let's look at another one we took today, another one that was a little disappointing. LSPD, which I think I just ended up having to close my position on that one. I can tell you I lost that one, I just can't tell you. So let's see why we got in though at 246. It was probably an open order that I ended up closing after hours, but again, this was me just being dumb at the end of the day. I'm not even going to waste our time on that one because I know that was a bad trade. Let's get into the earlier morning because this one I thought was actually a good trade. I thought it was going to go our way. It did not go our way. So at 10:32, we bought in at 218. That was on Lucy. So let's see what happened here. I was really expecting a reversal here, especially after this strong. So I was looking at the trend line here. It's basically how I had it drawn, somewhere about like that. Again, we shouldn't be drawing it towards the mid. I was kind of forcing touches here. But again, it's not necessarily a horrible trend line. We do see that even if I had drawn it back some, possibly like here to here, we still see that even going with this kind of a trend line where we've got multiple, we've got our touch here, we've got our touch here, we see our touch at our bottom one here. It's not necessarily a horrible trade, I don't think. I think we had every reason to think that it was going to pull back up. It just unfortunately did not. I was really expecting this one. And one of the problems that we did have on this one is we got in far too late, or far too high. We should have had our limit order at the very minimum. We should have had our limit order at this 210 area. And if we couldn't have got in at 210, we should have just accepted that we weren't going to get in. I thought we had a lot of room to pull back up towards VWAP and back towards some of the previous highs of the day. It just really did not go that way, unfortunately, for us. And so I ended up getting stopped out, and we took a loss on that one. It's hard to say what we did wrong on this one. Maybe should have waited for one more confirmation. It's so hard to say because a lot of times you don't get that pull back in or another confirmation chance without getting in too high again and kind of risking leaving stuff on the table or risking that you're going to have that pullback after it gets up a reasonable amount. I think it was a decent trade. The loss that we had on it, one, we set the stop loss way too low. Setting stop loss down at 190 on this was a horrible trade. This was actually my worst trade of the day because of the amount that we ended up risking. This was a trade that we lost like $800 on because I didn't actually follow my rule of never risking more than 2% of my account. So we shouldn't, at maximum, we should have set our stop loss at about $2 here because that would have told us that it was really not pulling the way we were expecting. And even then, like $2, we're risking 20 cents a share on quite a few shares. It's just not a good trade. So I think setting it at $2 is the area we should have. We should have never had it all the way down at 190. I don't know what I was thinking there. That's just a horrible trade. I may have tried to bump it down after I kind of thought we would get a pullback up, but that's me trying to hope not following a strategy. $2 should have been the max there. The max amount of shares we should have had at a price of 218 should have been about 4,587 shares. We'll see. We actually bought, I think, 6,000 on this, so that's just me kind of doing a poor job. So what do we end up getting on this one? Yeah. Yeah, so actually we did do 4,500, so this wasn't the bad one. There was another one that was bad. Well, I say that, no, it was bad because, again, 4,500 shares, we lost 20 cents a piece on that. So, yeah, we actually ended up losing, or I guess we lost 18 cents technically. Yeah, so we lost $810 on that share. We should never be risking that much of our account. Like I said, we should have set it at 5 at most. And if we were going to buy 4,500 shares worth, the max we should have had it at was 205, so that we're only risking 5 cents a share, and that puts us at least close. It's still over our limit, so not really a good trade. Just not following our rules. That ended up being a major hit on the portfolio today, so was not a good trade. I don't necessarily think that we did the wrong thing as far as taking the trade. I think we had good reason to believe that this was going to pull back up after a pretty good drop. Seeing this, I think what we should have done was waited for it to break this previous resistance point. If we see it break this previous resistance point, because this just ended at the previous resistance, what we need to see is we need to see a break above this. So that's the only thing I think we could have done differently and what we should have been looking out for. And unfortunately we didn't, and we took a loss on that one. So we'll look at our next one, MQ. Another small loss on this one. I think we ended up getting out on a small loss after we saw it was not going to go our way. So let's pull that one up. NQ, we ended up getting in at 11.35 at 5.15 a share. So 11.35 on NQ. So right around this time, I'm really not sure why we didn't ride this one up. What happened here? We should have had every reason to ride this one up. Did we get stopped out? I don't know why my stop limit wouldn't have been at 5.13. There's no way I would have set it that low. I always give it at least a little room to breathe there, so that's very strange. We got stopped out at 11.48. That was one that we should have won today. I'm not sure what happened on this, because that was actually a good trade. So we're in at 11.35 at 5.15. Our stop loss should have been at this level here, which should have been, man, I don't know what happened on this one. This should have been a win here. We had every reason to win this trade. I'm not sure why we got out of it. I guess maybe this pullback here scared us off at 5.13. Yeah, like, I don't know why we would have done that, though. There was absolutely the only thing I can think is because we didn't see this break above our previous high. But man, this is such a tight area. We really jumped out of this one too early. I don't know what we were thinking. We should have set it down here at about 5.08 or 5.09, which should have been our stop loss. And we would have been fine. We'd have rode that one up for quite a bit. You know, getting in at 5.15, we could have rode that one all the way up to 5.30. That would have been 15 cents a share on, you know, $10,000 worth. That would have been 15 cents a share. That would have been a $300 trade over the course of about 2 hours. That was one we should have won. And I'll tell you the reasoning behind this trade. We really should have waited for another breakout. This one was more of a filling trade, so I don't necessarily approve of the trade we took here. But once I got this hard confirmation up, I really felt like the buyers were in control here. And so I ended up popping in at this point. Was it 11:15 we said? And I hopped in 11:35 actually. So I was actually in here. I just, I don't even know how we... I'm not sure what happened on this one. Why we got out of this. Again, the only thing I can think is because we saw this pullback before we really broke this high, and so maybe I thought better of the trade, but that one should have been a good trade. I had good reason to believe that one was going to continue uptrending because the pullback really wasn't hard enough. It never dropped down below our previous pullback. So, wow, I don't know. I'm not sure how I messed that one up. Should have been a win on that one. Yeah, bought in, sold at 11:48, which would have been around. There was just no reason for me to get out right here. Absolutely no reason to get out. I'm not sure what I was thinking there. It was just a bad one to get out of. Being in a hurry at work, I guess, just not really paying attention. So this one was actually another win we had. So I actually had more wins than I gave myself credit for. We should have gotten more than 6 cents a share here. Again, being a little greedy on this one, missed out on getting out sooner. But yeah, so this is Palantir at 10:20. So let's pull that up and I'll walk you through the reasoning on why we took this one. This one I don't recommend. We won on this one, and we could have potentially. I tried to get all the way up to 16, and we never got there. So I ended up. If I get out here, I just call it a little soon. I should have went ahead and just took the win there because that would have been a decent amount. But really, we got in. I think the main reason I got in after this was because of this strong hammer here, and so we saw. And this is not a good trend line to follow at all. It's so sharp, it's really not a trend line to use. But the reason I got into this was because of this strong hammer, and I believe we saw another strong hammer here. And that was why I got in at around the time I did. And so we got in at a good point. We just tried to hold it a little too long and ended up getting out at 1587 after we saw the downtrend happen. Once we got close enough to 16, we should have took it. We should have went ahead and took it. Especially seeing that this was kind of a past area of consolidation, so we should have went ahead and just got out slightly before, took the gain. We could have had an 18 cents gain there versus only a 6 cents gain. And at how many shares did we end up buying on this one? Palantir, we did 625 shares at 18 cents. Could have been a $112 trade, so it would have been a good trade in a very short time. As a matter of fact, we would have been in and out within well, when did I get in exactly again? 10:20. So it would have taken a while to get there, but yeah, we got in right about here. Yeah, I had pretty good reason to believe, seeing how much pullback we had every time it tried to pull down. A pretty good reason to get in right here. Again, my main indicator was this strong hammer back up. I felt pretty confident in this one. So 10:20 we could have gotten out by 12:55. Would have been a 2-hour trade for about 120 bucks, but not too bad. Would not have been too bad overall. We'll take a $112 win any day, even if it takes 2 hours to get. We'll take that. So I think that was a good trade. I think I just was a little too greedy trying to get up to that 16. Unfortunately, we didn't quite make it, and it ended up being a smaller trade. 625 shares at only 6 cents. It's only about a $37 trade, so quite a difference. Got to be a little less greedy there, I think. I've learned that being more conservative is the key to success on trading, and when I'm trying to fight for bigger gains is when I take my losses or I end up missing out on money, and so we're going to try to avoid that in the future again. I keep telling myself that, and then I'm not listening. Rest of the trades of the day were honestly just a bit of a joke, so I'm not even going to go into those. But yeah, those were our trades for the day. I guess we can go into one on SoFi, kind of for my reasoning. Which one did I get into first? At 6:20, got in at 8:45. Decided to try to short more at 8:46. So, anyways, let's look at 12:33. Why we got in and tried to short SoFi. The rest of these were just me basically trying to catch up and kind of double down on a bad trade, quite honestly. So 12:33 SoFi. Let's see what we were thinking and what went wrong there. So at 12:33 we were right in this general area. Really no reason to get in on this trade, other than the fact that we broke the upward trend line. So I'll go into what I was thinking when I got in. I drew my trend line there. So we were below. I was waiting for a pullback up and then a pullback down, which we got that. We absolutely got that, and you'll see we had opportunities to make some of the money here. It unfortunately didn't get down to where I was trying to get. I was trying to get to 8:30, which was above where our last but here's where we had a problem. Is this was a previous resistance point or a previous support point. We should have just went ahead and got out here at 8 cents. It could have been a pretty decent trade at 1,000 shares, 8 cents. It's an $80 trade in a relatively quick time frame. That would have been within by the time we got in. It would have been within an hour of an $80 trade. So again, I don't think we took a bad trade. I think it was the right trade to make. We're just being greedy, trying to get down too low, and we need to be at least taking and selling half of our shares at a certain or at a previous support level, like right here. We should have at least sold half of our shares here, and then maybe try to ride the rest out. And if we see that we're not going to get it, then we can stop it. We see, the trend gets broken, we can go ahead and get out and not lose anything, and at least have gained on half of our shares there and get 40 bucks out of it versus 80. But we shouldn't have lost money on this trade, and we ended up losing a good deal on it. So it was I don't think it was a bad trade. I think we had the trend line that we realistically wanted, and we saw the break, and we got what we wanted, the pull down and the pull back up, and then the confirmation of it really pulling back down. We just didn't get out soon enough. So I think the trade was okay. It's just about when our exiting. We're, again, can't say this enough, I'm being too greedy with where I'm putting my exits, and I'm leaving money on the table. And when you're that greedy, you end up missing out on the profits that you could have gotten, and you end up taking a loss like I did in those trades. So Yeah, guys, those were the trades for the day. Some good trades. I think the buy-in points were not bad on a lot of them. It's just about the exit. So that's what we're going to be looking at and working on tomorrow. And yeah, let's just hope that we can see some improvement tomorrow. But anyways, guys, if you want to continue seeing my trades, seeing how the progress is going with wins and losses, again, we are just still in paper trading, so I'm not taking any actual losses. So that's the good thing right now. So while we're working on strategy and disciplining ourselves on our trades, we will still be doing the paper trading. And once we start seeing a higher success rate and more positive days where we're consistently staying positive across the week, then we'll start transitioning into actual money. But for now, paper trading, that's the way to go while we're still trying to figure it out. But anyways, guys, if you like the video, appreciate you stopping in, drop a like, and if you want to see more, then hit that subscribe button, and we'll be going back over more trades in the future.